In 2023, I ranked every episode of Friendship is Magic. It took me 2 years to write and edit, and the resulting video is 2.5 hours long. So now that another year is gone, let's take on another highly subjective topic and rank all the songs in the series. That's all 9 seasons, the movie, Best Gift Ever, and Rainbow Road Trip. In some way, this list was way harder to write, because while the show cranked out about a half dozen objectively bad episodes, I'd say there are almost no terrible songs in the series. Some forgettable ones for sure, but as a whole, I think I'm in pretty good company when I say that the music in this series is really good. Just like last time, several songs have stars next to them. That's because just like last time, I asked 500 of my viewers what their favorite song was and gave 1 star to every song that someone name dropped as their favorite. I'm gonna try to shave at least an hour off the last video, so let's get right into it. On a basic level, a good original song in narrative fiction fulfills at least one of the following criteria. Either it's a good song in its own right, on an emotional or technical level, it illustrates or shades in character, or it moves the story along. A good song doesn't have to fulfill all 3 criteria, but it should at least fill one of them. These first several entries are throwaway songs, barely complete musical ideas that aren't interesting and don't move the story along in any way. I wouldn't include them except for the fact that they appear on Wikipedia's list of every Friendship is Magic song, which I used to make this video. At the very bottom of that list is the Hop, Skip, and Jump song from Dragon Chai, a 4-bar fart that doesn't come to a stop as much as spin itself out. Right above that is the Ticket song, another 20-second tune about Pinky schmoozing her way into a gala ticket. This one isn't much better, but it at least had an excuse. Its parent episode, The Ticketmaster, was written in a very small window during season 1 where the show was intended to contain 2 separate stories per episode instead of 1, as was common in kid shows back in the day, including most episodes of the Powerpuff Girls, which Lauren Faust previously worked on with her eventual husband Craig McCracken. Amy Keating-Rogers was brought on to help beef out an 11-minute episode into 22 minutes, but you can still see fragments of ideas like this one from when the episode was smaller and more contained. I'm at the Grand Galloping Gala is the closest we've been yet to a fully formed musical idea, and that's due in large part to the most important guest of the gala that night, Public Domain. Do you ever notice how often people on television sing for He's a Jolly Good Fellow despite having never heard it in real life? That's because its more popular cousin, Happy Birthday to You, used to cost a whopping $1,500 to license for one-time use before it entered the public domain at the end of 2016. Goodfellow's public domain status is why you hear the melody used in this song without issue, and it's a big part of why it's been so persistent in pop culture, appearing in classic TV episodes and then homaged in modern TV episodes riffing on those classics, like some sort of lingering cultural brain parasite. Where was I? Like many older folk songs, it's limp and lifeless, and doesn't really add a lot to the scene it's in. I really want to apologize for starting these lists off so stanky. I got one more bone to pick, and then I promise I'll actually start complimenting things. The rap and history of the Wonderbolts, yes there are 2 apostrophes in there, is Pinky's musical mnemonic to help Rainbow Dash study for her Wonderbolts exam from testing 1 2 3. It's based off boombox rap motifs from the 80s and 90s, and in that regard it's a very faithful send-up, but it kinda drives me insane. Quantum Apologist once said that a good song should work on its own, outside the context of the show, and in that regard, the song is a failure. Not because it's a rap song. I love me some Watsky or Tech 9 as much as the next guy, but this song is clearly a send-up of those hip with the youth songs adults made in the 90s trying to educate kids with the music they think they're into. To that end, it has the same nagging insincerity those did. If it's supposed to be a genuine attempt at music, it's painfully out of date, and if it's meant to be a joke song, the joke is barely funny and goes on over twice as long as it should. It's a song that tries to have its cement pie and eat it too. Happy Month-iversary has most of the same issues, but it at least has a very final sounding bar that telegraphs that the song is actually over.
But now you're a month old today. Hey!
Welcome Song is short and inoffensive, but it introduces the mandolin, the favorite instrument of the Friendship is Magic songwriting team, and it gets credit for using a microwave as an instrument. You might be noticing a pattern here. Pretty often in the first 2 seasons, Pinky, and sometimes others, would launch headlong into spontaneous short musical numbers, like me and my echolalia on a Saturday night. Most of them are flops, and my personal headcanon is that they stopped after the writing team realized just how talented a songwriter Daniel Ingram is. We've got one more of these in the Evil Enchantress song, a spontaneous spew of poorly researched lore about Zecora the zebra. Andrea Libman's delivery matches her other off-the-cuff performances, but what sets this one above the others is an honestly really clever second rendition of the song by Flutterguy in the style of beat poetry.
She's an evil enchantress and she does evil dances, and if you look deep in her eyes, she will put you in trances.
Beat poetry was a very introspective and experimental literary and performance style named after the beatniks following the end of World War II that frequently eschewed normal narrative structure. It's a style you've probably seen a few times before, including a couple in this very franchise, even if you weren't sure what was being referenced. It goes even deeper when you realize that Flutterguy's original VA, Blue Mankuma, was raised in Seattle, a burgeoning scene for beatnik culture in the 50s, and who originally moved to Canada to dodge the draft for the Vietnam War right when he was at prime drafting age. Life inspires art, I guess. Sisterhood is another joke song, where the gag is that the song is being sung poorly because Big Mac is trying to jump through imagined hoops to spend time with his sister. Luckily, I don't have to go over the accidental subtext of the featured episode here, since this is a video about the songs themselves, but I and a couple friends have already discussed this topic more in depth in entry 126 of my video ranking every episode. Just Can't Be a Dragon here is the first song on this list that I would consider finished. The first one to get a dedicated spot in the story where we drop what we're doing and listen to a song that's intended to be enjoyed at face value. And that's pretty bad. No disrespect to Sludge's VA Dave Pettit. He performed the heck out of a really flat, repetitive, boilerplate song with no interesting features. It's also chock full of what feel like first draft lyrics, lines that were added to keep beat but meant to be replaced later with sharper lyrics once the main song structure was hammered out. It's one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to songwriting, and it's an issue that shows up in some of the show's better songs too. 104, the Failure Song. I think I may have found the least interesting song in the Friendship is Magic catalog. The one song that no one seems to have any strong opinions about whatsoever. I'm not sure how you could when I'm shocked the song got a reprise to begin with. It's a painfully generic first pass humblebrag song that ends before saying anything meaningful and seems deathly allergic to building up any kind of musical momentum.
The square root of 546 is 23.366642891009.
She is correct.
Cranky Doodle Donkey and Cranky Doodle Joy get bundled together here for being fun riffs off the patriotic 18th century song Yankee Doodle Dandy, as well as Yankee Doodle Boy from the early 20th century musical Little Johnny Jones. In, out, doesn't overstay its welcome. I like it. A good number of fans take issue with the School of Friendship. That's its own video, but to School of Friendship's credit, the song, not the place, there's a lot of interesting rhythmic information here. There's a neat section in the back half that creates a lot of musical motion by having the last syllable of each line occur on the first beat of the next bar.
There's not an equation on how to have fun. The students look bored now, well, what have I done?
Can't teach, being honest, not sure what to do. I'm quite certain I'm lost.
None of us has a clue.
And I believe that's intentional. In the first half of the song, when Twilight is content with how the school is running, they help sell that later musical motion by having her leave deliberate one-beat gaps in her lyrical delivery.
Students galore, new ideas to explore, can contain the excitement I feel.
The problem is, I try to judge songs in their entirety instead of just the good parts, and School of Friendship opens with 4 of the worst bars I have ever heard.
The School of Friendship, first day of class. Will we fail or will we pass? Students come from far and wide, brand new friends here by our side.
I am begging anyone being asked to write an off-the-cuff song about school to do a second pass on your lyrics, or at least try not to rhyme class with pass or best with test.
Students learning from the best, taking notes to pass the test.
If I can vamp the lyrics to your season premiere song in my kitchen while I'm waiting for my pizza rolls to cook, it's probably a good idea to take a second pass yourself. The song's an earworm, and not in a good way. While not quite as interesting, Piggy Dance is at least decently catchy, properly contextualized as a song meant to satiate babies, and perhaps most importantly, clocks in at a fifth of the runtime of School of Friendship, which doesn't leave a lot of room for me to get tired of the slowly sped up repetition. Pinky's Gala Fantasy Song is the highest ranking of Pinky's Spew of Consciousness songs from the first 2 seasons. It's short, charming, and even though the lyrics drop out in the middle in favor of an alliterative list of all the cool stuff at the gala, it doesn't lose any steam, and it makes sure to properly telegraph that it's finished after 40 seconds. Danish pop band Lucas Graham has that Owl City disease, where I only just now learned that Lucas Graham is not the name of the singer, but actually a name given to the 2-person group consisting of a lead singer and a drummer. No disrespect to Lucas Graham, at least one person from the survey is apparently a big fan, but their song Off to See the World, which plays out the 2017 movie into the closing credits, is just not a pony song. Which is not to say that it's not a great song. I'd say of the 3 weird fringe songs from the 2017 movie, it's easily my favorite, but all 3 of those songs, as well as Glowin' Up from a New Generation, have this vague sense of pop music sensibility, with their featureless lyrics about going on an adventure, where if you took this song out of the context of a My Little Pony movie, it would fit equally well in almost any animated film. You Gotta Share is a sometimes irritating song about getting along from one of the more problematic episodes of the series, but it's got some fun, goofy inflections from Shannon Chan Kent as Pinkie Pie that I like.
We all eat hay and oats. Why be at each other's throat?
I also like that it was composed for player piano, and it adds a lot more character to an otherwise kind of forgotten Season 1 song. We've only just cracked the top 100, and we've already covered all the quote-unquote bad songs in the catalog. The rest of the songs in this video are at worst okay, and close to all of them have at least one cool thing about them. For instance, despite It's Gonna Work's main hook and melody being extremely repetitive, I like that musician Caleb Chan played several authentic Indian instruments, including tablas, dholak, and finger cymbals, which all look like a ton of fun to play. Also, keep an eye out for Caleb Chan in the future. He's a frequent contributor to the fantastic music of the franchise, and I'm not even close to done mentioning his awesome orchestrations. John Delancey is a wild individual. He was diagnosed with a particularly nasty case of dyslexia as a child that kept him from learning how to read until he was 12. A school teacher of his helped convince him to go into acting, and he's now among the most eloquent speakers in work today. If there's an initial gut reaction to his only song, Glass of Water, it's a sense of astonishment that they tapped him for a song to begin with. Responses to the song were a little muted. Several fans loved the breakneck pace of the lyrics, while others had trouble finding a groove with John's middle-of-the-road performance, somewhere between his singing voice and normal speech. These are both reactions to the kind of lyrics penned by lyricist Ed Valentine when he set out to write Discord a patter song for a new generation. The viewers, not the movie. Patter songs are a tradition of musical theater, a specially written passage for the cast's show-off that serves as a sort of elongated tongue twister, where the spectacle is less on the content of the lyrics than on the ability of the performer to sail through a tricky passage of alliteration, enunciation, and elegance. Their influence can be felt in the spoken word passages of rap artists I listened to in college, as well as stand-up comedy, like George Carlin's stand-up bit Modern Man from his 2006 set Life is Worth Losing, and much earlier than that in classic comedy bits like Abbott and Costello's Who's on First. Heck, even if you're not familiar with the work of 19th century playwrights Gilbert and Sullivan, you've almost certainly heard pieces of their work, including arguably the most famous patter song of all time.
I am the very model of a modern nature general. I've information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England and I quote the fights historical from Marathon to Waterloo in order categorical.
If it's not your thing, I get it. It's not exactly a jam that I can turn on whenever I'm feeling it, but it's a unique piece of music nonetheless, and I can appreciate someone broadening my musical horizons while I watch my horse show. Here's the first of my horse-related hot takes. Flim and Flam were given 3 songs over the course of Friendship is Magic. Flim and Flam did not need 3 songs, and even 2 songs is pushing it already. Think about how beautiful and unique Flim Flam Brothers was. The song, not the characters. It was unique, instantly characterized by a pair of new VAs, and showed that the musical team could make amazing music while trying something new without resting on their laurels. Flim Flam Miracle Curative Tonic feels tired and obligatory, as if to say, we had them sing a song last time, so they gotta sing a song every time now. Samuel Vincent and Scott McNeil give charismatic performances, but I can never shake the feeling that the time spent on this song could have been better spent on something else. The first of 2 songs played at Twilight Sparkle's coronation, Behold Princess Twilight Sparkle, is exactly what it needed to be. Not a bop by any means, but an immediately believable choral reprise that fits the regal sense of importance surrounding a ceremony that at one point signaled the end of the series. Hang with me here, I got a lot of baggage for this next one. In 2001, Nickelodeon Movies tapped John A. Davis to create a feature-length film based on a property that quickly became his most enduring legacy. Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius and its companion series, The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, follow the title character, a kid genius that gets through life with the help of scientific inventions, even if his social skills aren't the best. Sound familiar? It's a premise that hit me square on my 10-year-old nose and appealed to that fantasy every kid that age has about doing cool shit even though they still have to do chores. In an attempt to push that childhood fantasy, the film and its marketing made frequent use of a song that came out a decade before I was born, Kim Wilde's 1981 song Kids in America. It was a counterculture anthem from the 80s that maintained most of its relevancy in the transplant to a film from the early 2000s, but it's also one of the first times as a kid that I really felt like I was being pandered to. It didn't feel like a song written for me, it felt like a song written for adults back in 1981. The practice of squeezing an unrelated pop song into your soundtrack for mass appeal is a practice that continues today, and wouldn't you know it, it showed up in my Pony movie too. As cozy and pandering as it is, I have a lot of problems with the ponyfied first verse of We Got the Beat as covered by Rachel Platten. Why did production choose this 80s song in particular? Though it's probably because the 1980s had a whole host of amazing music, and one of those hit the perfect balance of recognizable and cheap to buy the rights to, I had a small glimmer of hope that perhaps it might be a deep-cut inside joke related to My Little Pony's lineage. Like maybe this song was number 1 on the charts when the franchise began in 1983. Not really, since We Got the Beat is a song by the Go-Go's released in 1981, the same year as the song from the Jimmy Neutron movie. The first piece of MLP media was released April 14th, 1984. Can you imagine this movie opening with a parody of Footloose? That'd be pretty cool. Secondly, though it got a lyrical asset flip to make sure it was a song about ponies, the song rightfully feels like a shallow facelift of an opening number. I wish there was some way I could listen to this song on my own time, but there are 2 issues with that too. Leave alone the fact that I can't listen to it legally because it doesn't appear on the official soundtrack. I also can't listen to it illegally because a second verse of that song doesn't exist. It appears that the film's production may have only wanted to shell out for a cover of the first verse because that's all they needed, but the lack of desire to bite the bullet and at least finish the song is a big fat boo for me. I have one more gripe with this one, but it's not yet relevant, so stick around and I'll meet up with you in half an hour to complain some more. Rainbow, Sia's song that closes the 2017 movie, has very similar problems. While it's full of vaguely equestrian words like rainbow and sun, it was at least written specifically for the movie by actual pop star Sia. I'm just not a big fan of her work. I think the ink suit design they gave her in the movie as Songbird Serenade is neat, but to me she's always been that lady that gives out extra money to her favorite survivors at the reunion shows. The last laugh is fine. Suitably goofy, but it feels like a step back compared to Al's earlier performances. If it has one thing over the songs from Pinky Pride, I guess it feels a little more, I don't know, controlled. I'm still not a huge fan of songs that stop dead in their tracks to deliver dialogue.
Hey, Sans, how did the laughing bird's eggs hatch? They cracked up!
The best thing about the battle for Sugar Belle is that despite this being framed as poor old Big Mac getting cut in on by Featherbang's McBoy Band, both of them trip over themselves in an effort to show off more than they can chew. Featherbang's Stallion Heartthrob performance is slick but vapid and disingenuous, while Big Mac sings a grindingly safe tune that feels like you asked someone to improvise a country love song. Really, the biggest fault here is the complete lack of transitions. The jarring cuts between verses make this one hard to listen to. Give your listeners some breathing room. Celestia's ballad is kinda boring and just okay, so I'll take this time to mention that as pretty as this sequence is visually, I made a point of trying to appreciate each of these songs with my eyes closed when I ranked them. It felt sort of impure trying to judge the song's connection to the episode it appears in. For some songs, that was the greatest thing that could have ever happened to it, but for one-off songs like Celestia's ballad, it leaves a floaty song like this clawing for any sort of identity. For every instance of musically satisfying repetition,
to see how you might grow, to see what you might do.
There's an ill-advised melody that tumbles down the stairs and ruins any of the ethereal momentum this song was going for. But as I said earlier, we're now officially out of the territory where I can get genuinely mad at any of these. Fluttershy's lullaby has exactly one joke, but it's a good one. What begins as an unimpressive lullaby erupts into an extremely energetic song that I'd say is a little less than ideal for sleeping. It's got a ton in common with It's Bedtime, a comedy song about an inappropriate lullaby from 2020 by internet comedy duo Ninja Sex Party, though My Little Pony's version doesn't quite have as much staying power, since Michelle Kreber is already trying to stay under the radar as Claire Corlett's prepubescent singing voice. What the heck is going on with the season 3 finale? There's nothing tonally wrong with any of the songs here, but more than once, the show tried out a few sounds that, while pleasing, use some out-of-the-box techniques that keep it from sounding like a traditional Friendship is Magic song. I've Got to Find a Way makes use of sad-sounding vocals from Rebecca Choiquette that were tripled on top of each other and panned left, right, and center to give it a big, open, empty feeling. I'm sure this will become the parent map of this video, the song I was way too hard on because it was too different from an established formula, but again, we're firmly in decent territory now. Oops, one of the early Pinky songs accidentally fell through the cracks. Cupcake Song is far and away the best of them for reasons I already complained about earlier. It's super catchy, fast enough to be fun to sing, actually knows how to end, and it gets in and out in the same amount of time it takes for me to talk about it. That's efficiency. The Heart Carol is a simple choral piece played at the end of the Heartswarming Eve pageant in Season 2, and it does exactly what it needs to. It gets in, out, and colors the world it inhabits. Everything I said about Flim Flam's Miracle Curative Tonic also applies to Friendship U. The song, song, not the episode. Except that this one distinguishes itself with the use of some cool pep rally marching band instrumentation. That's an actual attempt at doing something different instead of coming back 2 seasons later to rest on your laurels. In Hearts and Hooves Day, the Crusaders tried desperately to hook up their teacher with a suitable date for the equestrian version of Valentine's Day. And while the idea itself is charming and the melody is great for singing in the shower, there's very little musical momentum in The Perfect Stallion. Musical momentum is a tough concept to describe, especially when the guy writing this script had to consult several of his musical friends to help with some of the more complex musical ideas, but basically the concept of musical momentum is this idea that a piece of music knows where it's going. It builds upon itself, doesn't jump too harshly from idea to idea, and keeps the listener naturally engaged. When I finish listening to The Perfect Stallion, I don't really feel like I've gone anywhere. The last couple bars are almost identical to the first two, and the whole song feels less like a song and more like a list of Equestria's least eligible bachelors. Friendship Always Wins is a much better version of the song that officially opened the School of Friendship. The lyrics are more polished, the chorus is much more cleanly organized, and even when characters with unconventional singing voices get a turn at the mic, they were integrated in a place and a way that they accent the song rather than grinding it to a halt. There are also more than 2 passages in this song where even a musical dummy like me can appreciate that they were trying to do something interesting to keep the listener engaged. Stuff like this string of E6 notes that flitters briefly with D sharp right at the end.
And once we master kindness,
This part where Fluttershy swings a single syllable from D up to E and back down,
We're huff and huff.
and this really fun quarter rest right before the bridge that feels like you fell only to have your friends catch you 1 beat later.
in hand, in hoof, in wing, or even claw.
You could make a case that the song from earlier, School of Friendship, was deliberately made quick and messy so the narrative could show how much the school had grown in 2 episodes, but I don't think even I am that cynical. The most unfortunate thing about the Season 9 song, Fit Right In, is actually not that the premise of the song is a little gross. No, the really terrible thing is that this song has now been almost completely eclipsed by a far better song from the G5 movie that happens to share the exact same name. But when you mentally separate it from its episode, it's still a nice song. It doesn't drop any momentum in the back half, and it keeps that makeover theme going throughout. I am not at all the intended audience for a singing telegram. I had to give out my fair share of them in college while dressed as a gorilla, so I understand how exhausting they can be, but it's seriously worse than having the happy birthday song sung at me. But as the opening gag to a children's cartoon, I like it a lot. I touched on this in my episode on how MLP does cold opens. It's a fine gag song in its own right, but it also effortlessly conveys the inciting incident without stopping the song dead in its tracks.
Next time I think I'll just pass out written invitations.
When I ranked every episode last year, I was shocked to see so many fans come out of the woodwork in defense of Frenemies, and by extension the song Better Way to Be Bad. Not even in a bad way, they were all super nice about it. And while I don't much like the style of singing and character exemplified in this song, the 3 leads, Mark Aitchison, Sonny Westbrook, and Kathleen Barr, give solid vocal performances tinged with that exasperated stankiness the song calls for. But I will commend the writing team for going with a tango for this scene, an angle of attack I wouldn't have even considered that adds a lot of flavor to an otherwise pretty tepid song premise. The tango is a small family of musical styles that originated in South America, which informs the song's use of clackety castanets and what I'm 50% sure is a violin on strings. I'm even more excited about the really fun rhythmic complexity that comes with the tango, which explains why I'm constantly humming this song in traffic, even though I'm very whatever about it. Check out this cool fluctuating series of quarter and eighth notes on Michael Vogel's lyrics that open up the song to make sure you stay on your feet from the very beginning.
I think I know a way that we can grow. Time to try something new, something better.
I like brand new world songs like So Many Wonders. They're fun and easy to write, even if this one feels a little like filler. I would also have liked it if it had a more natural transition from the exploratory opening lyrics to the big band stanza that closes it up. Friendship is Magic premiered during my first semester in college. I was too deep in the Survivor fandom at the time to be anything but lukewarm about it, but I had a close brony friend named Sam who would geek out about the show at lunch, much like I'm doing now. Sam, if you're out there, how the hell are you, man? One of the things he loved talking about was just how good the music was. I asked him for an example, and he opened up his laptop and started playing number 77.
Giggle at the ghostly, guffaw at the grossly, crack up at the creepy, whoop it up with the weepy.
14 years later, I have a much better appreciation for just how good the music in this show would get, but I was baffled at first that he used the laughter song as the exemplar of Daniel Ingram's music. It's fun and a good representation of the style of writing the show was going for, but it wasn't exactly blowing my socks off. I eventually realized that the show was still in baby stages, and he really didn't have a lot of music to choose from when I asked him. Tepid take alert, but the laughter song might have been the best song outside of the theme song until at least Winter Wrap Up, and I just found out that episode didn't even come out until Christmas Eve 2010. Time is scary. In case you weren't aware, Philly Vanilli is my favorite episode. It's amazing for reasons that don't belong in a video like this, and it has 3 songs. Music in the Treetops, a relaxing personal moment of joy from the show's most nervous character, Find the Music in You, a peppy-ass a cappella jam with 4 distinct vocal ranges, and a heartwarming amalgamation of the two once Fluttershy joins the Ponytones. That 3rd song doesn't have a unique entry in the Wikipedia page I use for this list, so it unfortunately won't appear in this video. But even if it had its own entry, it doesn't have a coherent enough identity beyond being a smashing together of the 2 previous songs, so I thought I'd get that out of the way before anyone asked me where it went. Anyway, Music in the Treetops is a lovely personal song sung by Fluttershy in what she thought was the privacy of her own property. It's got that wonderful soft quality that Fluttershy songs have, where VA Andrea Libman gets to perform in her natural register as opposed to songs featuring Pinkie Pie, around 80% of which had to be performed by Shannon Chan Kent in order to hit her much higher register. My echolalia also really appreciates songs that boil down to just the character talking about what they see, otherwise known as the Randy Newman School of Songwriting. Applejack was done real dirty when it came to musical selection. Part of it may have something to do with the early installment weirdness related to VA Ashley Ball struggling to settle on a comfortable speaking voice, but come on. Ashley is the lead singer of her own indie rock band Hey Ocean, literally the first piece of fandom information about her I came across back in 2020. I wanted a full-on country song, damn it. We eventually got a couple of them, but I'm saving one of them for later. So instead, let me talk about Seeds of the Past. The choice to make Applejack the spirit of heartwarming past was actually a really inspired choice. It gave a really folksy down-home tone that felt right at home in a song that was nostalgic by design. It loses me when the turmoil hits in the middle of the song, and I'm generally against songs that stop for more than a line to deliver exposition, but it's also the first song on this list that hit me with that twinge of sadness, which is something you're going to see more of in a bit. Also, I 100% understand just how wrong it feels to call this the worst of the 5 songs from that episode. Hang on to that feeling, because it's only going to get worse. The True Gift of Gifting also gets docked a lot of points right at the beginning for dropping the melody to make room for spoken dialogue. I really hate this. It neuters any momentum a song has, momentum that's nearly impossible to get back. Granted, I like a couple elements here a lot. Spike's opening lyrics come spilling out all at once, selling his anxiety about impressing someone he really cares about.
But I got stressed and overthought until the day was shot, and it was all for naught.
I also really like the writing technique, where the background vocals land on the first beat of the next bar, trying to build back up what motion they still have.
We've all been friends forever, and look how far we've come, how far we've come. The holiday brings us close, and now it's time for fun. It's now begun.
But my general attack strategy with this video has been to judge each of these songs warts and all. I'm not judging just the cool parts after all. Here's a fun weird confession. I really like the Pony Pokey. It takes a simple, recognizable tune and sings just enough of it to catch you up on where everyone is in this cavernous, stuck-up ballroom of the Canterlot Castle. But John, I hear you ask, is that song all that much different from the Hokey Pokey? Did the songwriting team consisting of Daniel Ingram and William Anderson obtain the rights to that song? Can he even get the rights to use in a children's horse show? The answer to all 3 of those questions is absolutely not. I'll spare you the details, since the copyright situation regarding the Hokey Pokey is a giant show involving several different countries and more than 8 decades of history that makes the copyright behind the Happy Birthday song look like a casual misunderstanding, but the short of it is as follows. The Pony Pokey is extremely unusual in that the version that appears in the episode was sung by Shannon Chan Kent in the recording studio, and then handed off to Daniel and William, who were tasked with creating the same tune with a slightly tweaked melody to avoid that old devil copyright infringement. This is a really rare inversion of the usual workflow, and something that could really only work with a tune flirting this dangerously with the public domain. Honestly, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't have enough of a trained ear to pick up on exactly what was changed, but I know Hasbro well enough to know that they're not about to put themselves in danger of litigation for a Hokey Pokey parody. Just like the special in which it appears, I really wish that Living in Color's chorus wasn't so mind-numbingly repetitive. It has these quick sequences of really pretty lines about the colors of the rainbow, only to repeat the title of the song ad nauseum. This one really hurts to be mean to, because I adore the lyrical content in this one. It reminds me a lot of the Technicolor phase from Owl City's debut album Maybe I'm Dreaming, a love song that evokes the singer's presence in the colors of everyday objects. Yeah, it's hokey, but it's the music I was listening to when I fell in love with my wife, so it's got a particularly special place in my heart. My biggest nitpick about Hearthwarming Eve is here once again, and I think we finally entered nitpick territory here, is that I wish they had nixed the word once from the title. No descriptive information would be lost, and it would keep the recurring line from feeling like lyricist Michael Vogel was trying to shove too many peppermints in his pockets.
Ponies' voices fill the night. Hearthwarming Eve is here once again.
You can make it all fit, Mike, you just gotta prune those darlings a little. Still, plenty to like about this one. It's quick, fluid, and everyone, recurring and extra, gets a turn to sing without overburdening the song. I'm particularly fond of the full orchestra that comes swooping in when Rarity gets pissed at Derpy. That was really nice.
Not one mistake, don't let that break. Oh, goodness sake.
Before I ranked all these songs, I went down my Wikipedia reference list and made sure I could hum the full tune to each of these as a sort of baseline memorability test. Only 4 of the songs failed this test to the point that I had to Google them, which is not a good sign. Friendship Always Wins, which I've already talked about, Friends Are Always There For You, and The Place Where We Belong, which I'll tackle later, and number 70, Let the Rainbow Remind You. This one does have that one really cool section.
And when we come together, combine the light that shines within. There is nothing we can't do. There is no battle we can't win.
But the rest of it feels really rushed, a little sloppy, and it ends before saying anything of substance. But it's a great example of a song that betrays the most common element in all of Friendship is Magic's music. Take a listen and see if you can tell me what it is. The mandolin was a go-to instrument for composer Daniel Ingram since the very beginning of the series. It's the higher-pitched, pluckier cousin to instruments like the acoustic guitar, which for whatever reason our brains have associated with the kind of upbeat fantasy setting of Ponyville and the associated world. It's nice and shiny, but laying on one instrument like a horn in traffic doesn't really instill the greatest confidence that I'm about to listen to a song with its own audible identity. Bats was written by Daniel Ingram and orchestrated by Stefan Andrews, an accomplished musician talent with whom Daniel was a longtime collaborator on a previous project, the late 2000s PBS show Martha Speaks. Daniel says that he was really inspired to make a back-and-forth musical number inspired by the whimsical, bombastic work of Danny Elfman, and it shows. It's also really impressive that a less is more approach to composition here worked as well as it did while channeling Elfman's style.
Stop the bats, stop the bats, make them go and not come back. Stop the bats, make them go and not come back.
I'd also like to point out the part of that Facebook post that mentions that Season 4's music was firing on all cylinders, and looking at the rest of my list, I agree completely. Stripped of its context within what is an absolutely stellar episode, the 2 pieces that bookend Magical Mystery Cure, Morning in Ponyville and Life in Equestria, are really serviceable numbers that frame the monumental amount of plot that happens in this episode without getting too out of control. It's also a very flexible tune, suitable for morning go-getters as well as triumphant coronations. I like it. Pinky Pride is the second of 4 completely musical episodes in the show's catalog. Like all of the songs featured in these episodes, the ones in Pinky Pride are pretty good, though we will run into the issue of how to distinguish between songs that reuse similar melodies for cohesion purposes, and Pinky Pride is the guiltiest of the 4 when it comes to that kind of cohesive writing. For transparency's sake, I'll let on that every song in this episode gets its own entry on this list, except for Cheese Confesses, which leans a little too heavily on the core melody from the first song in this episode, Pinky the Party Planner. You know the one.
Every single day there's something new you can plan for. Every single day there's something wonderful to do.
Pinky the Party Planner was heavily inspired by Belle, the opening character song from Disney's Beauty and the Beast, a character song about a girl doing her own thing, though I can appreciate the people of Ponyville being notably nicer. Let's tackle one more Pinky Pride song while we're here. The Super Duper Party Pony shares parts of the same melody as Party Planner, this time sung with resident goofball and all-around great human being Weird Al Yankovic. The lyrics are full of goofy imagery like party-based explosives and obscene amounts of fruit punch, and the entire song is styled as a polka, the musical style that made Weird Al Yankovic an international superstar, but I feel it's important to note that Weird Al actually didn't receive a writer credit for this song, or any part of either episode in which he plays a central role. And that's fine. I imagine having him write his own lyrics would have been both expensive and time-consuming for production. It's still decent though, and I really appreciate that additional twang of sadness as Pinky lets out a defeated whimper right at the end, setting up the episode for some more impressive work later in this video. I can't be the only one who severely missed Scary Luna. In fact, the casting for all the Christmas Carol roles in A Heartwarming Tale were absolutely on point. I like this one. It's nice and dark, though it's not usually one I turn on when I want to listen to pony music. Weirdly though, I think a lot of the song is overshadowed by Kelly Sheridan's desperate vocal performance right at the end.
Please, Spirit,
It's something that was present in the source material, Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and it's that fast, desperate plea from Snowfall Frost that makes me realize, okay, you got me, this one's pretty good. I'll also shout out Aloma Steele in one of the only 2 songs in the series where she takes over Luna's singing voice from series regular Kazumi Evans. I adore the theme song to Rainbow Road Trip. Yes, it's got generic pop song vibes, but it's energetic, lays down the road trip theme hard and fast, and is no longer than the average theme song. One Small Thing is one of the freebie songs from the 2017 movie, about not letting circumstances get in the way of having a good time with new friends. It's got a really cool brass section, some cool underwater instrumental fills, and another spotless performance from Shannon Chan Kent. If you're not a fan of One Small Thing, can I instead interest you in a lot of little things? Aloma Steele reprises her role as Luna's singing voice for the second and final time, and the resulting harmonies are really nice. It also drops a half dozen ACT words in between some really dense alliterations scattered throughout the song, which I really love. The Flim Flam Brothers, the song, not the weirdos, may not be as effortlessly creative with its wordplay as the previous entry, but it's far and away the funnest song in the catalog to sing, and learning all the words makes for a fun parlor trick if you're ever stuck in an elevator or waiting in line at a convention. The entire song, as well as the characters of Flim and Flam themselves, are very heavily inspired by Harold Hill, the smooth-talking con man trying to rip off the residents of a small Iowa town.
Represent!
In the 1957 musical The Music Man. That musical also inspired several other fantastic episodes of television, notably the season 4 episode of The Simpsons, Marge vs. the Monorail. Samuel Vincent and Scott McNeil give amazing in-character performances to a song that keeps the plot moving and, more importantly, sounds nothing like any other song in the catalog. Great work, but nothing unexpected from the VAs behind Piccolo and Double D. I also appreciate how breezy this one feels, considering this is the longest song in Friendship is Magic and the second longest song in the franchise, clocking in at almost 4 minutes. That's no easy feat. Here it is, my hottest take. Say what you want about the episode it comes from, but I already ranked episodes last year. This one's about music, and my heart wants what my heart wants.
Giddy up, Derby racers! Giddy up, Derby racers! Giddy up, Derby racers! Go, go, go!
The Cart Before the Ponies has a few problems, but the song is not one of them. You don't see real-life go-karting as much as my childhood cartoons would lead me to believe, but they're almost always a blast, and a big goofy premise deserves a big goofy song. The series staple The Mandolin returns in full force. I like how well Michelle and Claire harmonize, and I'm also a big fan of how no lyrical room is wasted in between bars, giving parts of the song a hurried feeling in the second half.
Dig a boulder down the track. Love the view from the back of the pack. Won't stop, we're on the attack. Too late to take it all back.
It's a tone that stands in night and day contrast to our next song, which signaled a larger tonal change at the very beginning of Season 5.
Life is so grand in our town. We're always filled with cheer. We never have to look around to know that we're all here.
For a long time, I wondered what made our town so creepy. The song, not the place. On the face of it, it's a normal march extolling the questionable ideals of an isolated town. Sure, the perpetual smiles are creepy, but there's actually a deliberate musical choice that your ears pick up on, even if you aren't aware of it on a conscious level. For a long time, I thought that some of the notes might have been purposefully played slightly out of tune or something, but the main culprit actually isn't tone, it's tempo. At Whinny City 2024, animation supervisor Jim Miller told us that the animation team knew that the scene was going to be scored by a march, for which Daniel Ingram and It's Gonna Work orchestrator Caleb Chan took inspiration from propaganda songs during World War II. Most marches are historically played at a standard 120 beats per minute. However, when the animation team provided a scratch track to Daniel so they could get to work on a song that would match their animation, the tempo on the scratch track was deliberately slowed to 79 beats per minute.
Life is so grand in our town. We're always filled with cheer.
Noticeably slower than the standard march at 120, but also at a tempo that doesn't evenly divide into the standard march tempo. If the tempo was cut in half to 60 instead of the 2/3 cadence we got, it would divide much more evenly and not have quite that eerie slowness to it. But because the human brain doesn't know what to do with that weird slowdown factor, the whole song can come across as really unusual and very uneasy sounding. Again, I'm not great at the science of music, but Adam Neely has a really great video on the subject of tempo that you can check out in the description of this video. And that's just on a subconscious level. Some of the lyrics here are also really upsetting for a kid's show, and they skirt the line between unsettling and scary really, really well.
You can't have a nightmare if you never dream.
58. Being big is all it takes. The Crusaders sing a late series song about the perks of being older. It's pretty good, though it doesn't do anything exceptionally well. Replacement singer Ariel Tuliao fills in well enough as Scootaloo's singing voice that you might know her better as the singing voice for Supernova Zap, one half of the singing duo post-Crush from the Equestria Girls special Sunset's Backstage Pass. And though I'm not giving points for cool moments in these songs, I really like how this one likes to drop single beats for dramatic effect on some of the smarmier lines.
We can win any argument with because I say so.
In the dead middle of this list is a song that doesn't have a lot of details about its production, but I love nonetheless because of its sense of intentional featurelessness. Love is in Bloom is a lovely little inoffensive song that sounds right at home on a wedding reception playlist. I went to nearly a dozen weddings in my 20s, including my own, and this song shares similarities with a lot of the most inoffensive wedding hits. A layered, breathy chorus, a list of things found at a wedding, even just a summary of what a wedding is.
Love is in bloom, a beautiful bride, a handsome groom, two hearts.
It's flat, but it completely nails that vibe, which I really admire. The show took a big risk giving Spike his own ballad. Kathy Westluck is my all-time favorite voice actor, but her boyish register doesn't exactly lend itself on paper to an emotional song about sticking your neck out for your friends. But I think this one comes together quite nicely. For my money, this song has the single strongest opening of any song in the franchise, setting the tone beautifully with just 7 notes.
Would you say I'm a hero, glorious and brave?
Those 7 notes are enough to get my tear ducts going because I know a sad-ass song is coming my way. I always half expect the G on the first syllable of hero to preemptively bend down to the next note F before the second syllable ro. This is what's called a legato, where the note bends smoothly up or down to the next note with no break in between. I don't know how it's transcribed on the official music sheet, but it took me 5 seconds to find a cover of the song that does just that, sung by our old friend Ariel Tuliao and accompanied by, oh look, the man who wrote the music to this song, Mr. Daniel Ingram.
Would you say I'm a hero, glorious and brave?
That's a full-on bend, and it gives the opening that much more of a soulful kick. The rest of this song is a really tender admission from Spike that, hey, I messed up. Someone needed me, and instead of sticking up for him, I turned my back. I love that raw energy, and the whole song is better than it has any right being. Do you remember half an hour ago when I flew into a blind rage over that cover of We Got the Beat from the 2017 movie? That's mostly because that was not the original score for that scene. Hidden all the way at the end of the original film score's track list is a song entitled Equestria that was meant to score the absolutely stunning animated flyover opening. I'm gonna play a piece of it here, but you've now been warned that hearing this is gonna make your next viewing of that movie just a teeny bit worse, because this song is absolutely gorgeous.
Festival is coming, festival of friendships come from all around. Come rise to celebrate together.
Daniel Ingram was understandably frustrated that this song ended up getting cut so late in production, which is more and more frustrating in the modern climate of film adaptations, where we see stories about how the team behind the Super Mario Bros. Movie had to be absolutely begged not to replace the invincibility theme at the end of that movie with Van Halen's Jump. And look, I understand that one of the defining traits of the 2017 movie is an overwhelming slickness to it all, a sort of velvet glove slipped over Hasbro's iron fist. But at some point, you need to let the folks who made the show I love amazing do what they do best. I just now realize that I spent the last 4 years thinking that Equestria, the Land I Love, was Equestria's national anthem. Oops. It's really just a popular patriotic song in the universe. Amy Keating-Rogers says she was inspired by America the Beautiful when she wrote the lyrics, but she must have been really inspired. The songs are a perfect match in both syllable count and syllable stress, meaning that you could sing one in the tune of the other without much trouble.
Equestria, the land I love, a land of harmony. Our flag does wave from high above for pony kind to see.
Lena Hall gives an amazing performance as both Philly and adult coloratura, which I grouped together when I ranked everything. Her Philly version is raw and beautiful, and the adult reprise keeps that intimacy despite the concert setting. I remember a possibly apocryphal story that when the music team was writing and performing the Cutie Mark Crusaders song, they kept receiving the same note from above that the song was too good, and asked them to go back and perform the song worse in order to sell the Crusaders as kids who try everything, even if they suck at it. I'm being very careful not to state this as fact because I have been looking for proof of that story since my CMC kill count video with no avail. If any of you have actual proof of this, please let me know in the comments. As stated there, this song was inspired by 80s ballads, most notably Cutting Crew's 1986 hit I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight. And the less you look into the inspiration for that song, the better. I like it a lot, which is saying something for a song that was deliberately sung poorly and out of key. Make-A-Wish is a fun, catchy fluff song celebrating the falling action of Pinky's musical episode from season 4. It's got the simplest lyrics of any song in the franchise, yes, even that other one you're thinking of, but it's immensely catchy, especially in its extended version and especially in the absolutely killer remix by Gretina. It's one of my favorite remixes of all time, and you should go treat yourself and listen to it. The goof-off has no ending, but this time it's by design. Andrea Libman and Weird Al engage in a quickly escalating riff-off, a goof-off if you will, throwing all their party-based skills at Rainbow Dash like an increasingly sugar-coated job interview. There's a lot going on here, so it would be faster to just list the highlights. Highlights like Andrea Libman herself singing this song instead of her normal singing voice Shannon Chan Kent, a hastily ripped-off polka version of Pinky's Smile song, stay tuned, Gummy getting a live-action adaptation but no lines to sing even though baby alligators sound adorable, and the extremely rare instance of non-English lyrics in the original English dub. Pinky's giant cake piñata is accompanied by a partial rendition of Dale Dale Dale, a traditional Mexican party song played when guests are going to town on the piñata, a song I'm only familiar with thanks to the death metal rendition played in the absolutely terrible 2019 horror film Funhouse. Also thanks to Pinky for making trapezoid-shaped balloons. Only Pinky can make quadrilaterals with one pair of parallel sides. Hey, top 50. We've been in good song territory for a while now, so it's time to start really nitpicking. I don't like pointing out tiny flaws and otherwise good songs, but if this is going to be a granular ranking of the output of a musical team led by an extra-mile composer like Daniel Ingram, I have to start splitting hairs here. For instance, for how jaunty and Bobby BBBFF is, some of the lyrics really needed a second pass.
He taught me how to fly a kite, best friend forever. We never had a single fight.
I'm also not the biggest fan of in-and-out songs that feel like their main purpose is to fill space. Okay, this one hurts. As a summary song about where everyone's booty is at after Star Swirl's Freaky Friday prank spell, What My Cutie Mark Is Telling Me is really efficient, filling us in on the 5 cycle that messed up Twilight's friends. The ending verse being sung in that faux round style is really pretty, and I like that they did some of the verses in different styles and accompaniments, like a banjo or a Sorcerer's Apprentice style string section, but the whole song is just slightly less memorable than I remembered. The worst part about Generosity is the moment right before the song kicks in, when Rainbow Dash lampshades the idea of ponies breaking into song out of nowhere.
Ponies just bursting into song in random places at the drop of a hat? Who does that?
I know it's a kid's show, but don't try to have your cake and eat it too. That's the extent of the negatives on this one. Despite not being as immediately singable as other songs in the catalog, Generosity keeps a really wonderful, awe-inspiring energy going throughout due to an amazing orchestration by Stefan Andrews, which opens with a lilting woodwind section at the beginning before letting the brass off the leash in the second half. Stefan really is one of the unsung heroes of the first 4 seasons. His work is immaculate. So is Kazumi Evans on vocals, but you already knew that. Almost a decade before I officially became a pony fan, my wife would catch up on episodes of Friendship is Magic, and the only thing that really bothered me about her watching it with me in the room was that she was skipping the damn theme song. Growing up, I watched a ton of television, and the theme song is an American TV institution, especially if it bops. Right out the gate, the first 10 notes sound extremely familiar, almost like a warm hug.
My little pony, my little pony.
This 10-note theme has been used in some form in nearly every major theme song in the franchise, and has become a musical calling card for the MLP franchise as a whole. I mentioned over 2 years ago in my video about the Make Your Mark theme, and it's very nice to see it in widespread use. In a since-deleted Facebook post, Daniel Ingram credited the writing of that lick to Anne Bryant, Clifford Klinder, and Barry Harmon, all of whom were in the musical team for Gem, a joint venture from the mid-80s between Hasbro, Marvel, and Sunbow Productions about a girl who moonlights as a pop star. The song then drops right into an awesome drum beat, which later opens up to the iconic roll call phrase we all love. As a whole, the song hasn't been touched, save for a season 2 revamp that brightened up the instruments in the mix and re-recorded Rebecca Choy-Kett's Twilight vocals. All in all, it's a really great theme song, especially for a kid's show. But have you heard the extended version? A fuller 2-minute version of the theme song includes an entire extra verse that more fully name drops the main cast, and the brighter, fuller guitar lines are really pretty. That's all I wanted to say about that. It just seemed wrong that more people didn't know about it. I have a very love-hate relationship with irony and satire. They're really powerful tools for satirizing subjects in an interesting way, but lately I've seen them used more as a shield than as a spear, as a way for terrible people to defend their statements against valid criticism after the fact by saying they were just joking or being ironic, instead of using it as a way to say something insightful about the target of your commentary. That's also why I get a little perturbed about folks who defend things like fame and misfortune as a satire without knowing why a satire works. What I love about The Spectacle as a song is that it's completely irony-proof. This 1-minute song can be seen as a tongue-in-cheek send-up of pop stars along the vein of people like Lady Gaga. But, and this is essential, if you're not interested in the satire, it's still a really good song on its own, with bumping synth and distortion that can be taken at face value. Imagine how well this song would have been received if it was written as a snarky takedown of pop stars. For me, that would deflate the entire scene, with me waiting impatiently while my pony show said its lukewarm piece about pop stardom. The most effective satire can be enjoyed on the surface level as well, which is what makes sections like The Spectacle as effective as they are. 45. Find the purpose in your life. Just to get it out of the way, even though I'm supposed to be examining the songs only, I feel required to bring up a crazy detail of this song whenever I talk about it. When the Crusaders put Gabby through her paces, one of the things she tries is writing a piece of music for a quartet, and if you pause at the right moment, you can see a glimpse of her composition. I found out that if you ignore specific parameters like key and tempo, what she writes down is actually the first couple bars from the theme song of the show. The song itself has got a lot of stuff going on, which means it's time for me to awkwardly stumble through some music theory. The song opens in D-flat major, with the familiar mandolin to ground this in a very comfortable sense of an everyday search for Gabby's life purpose. As she begins knocking everything she tries out of the park, the song's key modulates up to G-sharp major, introducing a sense of urgency to the song with some background snare fills. These effects collectively make up the stakes on the track, but the coolest part of this whole song comes right before the key change back down to E-flat major. In order to keep the listener from feeling completely safe, the last bit of that segment revolves up instead of down, in a way I wasn't really expecting and keeps me sufficiently on edge.
Cutie mark crusaders, I think we've got a problem.
If it wasn't already obvious, I majored in math, not music, so an absolutely gigantic shout out is in order for Pegasus, who was a wonderful help with explaining some of the more complex musical ideas in this video. I Can Do It On My Own is a disarmingly tender song featuring someone's least favorite character. I know you're out there. Ryan Beale gives his only restrained performance all series, as a doubtful Zephyr Breeze trying to become a main stylist, though he still gets in a couple of quirky vocal flourishes. It's been way too long since Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash have done a song together, and it does a really good job not getting in its own way, leaving room for really climactic rising notes so the score can stretch its legs. This passage has all of that, and it's never not given me chills.
Then fly.
I can do it on my own.
You can do it on your own.
It's times like this that confirm to me that the music team can make any moment absolutely sing, even if you hate some of the people involved. That's the sign of great direction, and we still have 4 dozen of these left. The last time the Pegasisters from Separate Misters got a song together, it was for the Find a Pet song, an aggressively charming tune about picking out a companion for Rainbow Dash. Extremely fitting, given that this song was inspired by Fabulous Places from the 1967 film Dr. Dolittle, about a veterinarian who could talk to animals. This one is chock full of charm, as the Pegasus friends plow through 16 name drops of suitable animal sidekicks, resulting in a climactic finale that gets you really excited for a really silly premise.
And may the best pet win.
Blank Flanks Forever has really luxurious, textured orchestration for a song about some punk telling me what to do. I don't see this one get a ton of love. It's got really playful presentation, like the mixed down background refrain of Blank Flanks.
To-do.
Cutie marks don't limit you. They only show you what you can do.
Or the brief Eastern-sounding instrumentation for one short segment about snake charming. It's a great time, down to that trepidatious held note at the end of the chorus, mirroring the conflicted feelings of the kids Rumble is singing to.
They keepin' that blank, blank, blank is the thing to do.
Find the Music in You is a metaphor for having confidence in your own voice. That's the crux of the song, but it applies to any venture, be it singing or making hour-long horse videos on YouTube. Right away, the a cappella delivery of this song makes it unlike any other in the catalog. The entire quartet is great, with soprano Kazumi Evans, alto Jerica Santos, tenor Danny Balkwill, and Peter New in the unusual position of getting his own solo on vocal bass. Thanks to a freak turkey calling mishap and a surprise callback to a season 1 episode, Fluttershy gets adopted into the band as their replacement bass singer. This time, her speaking voice is provided by Mr. Popo's own Alvin Sanders, while her wonderfully buttery singing voice is provided by lifelong gospel singer Marcus Mosley. The song's also just really well composed, with parts of the music that drop the bass singer in the mix to really allow Santos and Bulkwill to shine in the middle ranges.
If you listen carefully, on every corner there's a rhythm playing, then it happens suddenly.
When I was in college, 6 years before I became a Pony fan, my wife and I were in her dorm and she turned on Suited for Success. This was in my snooty cinema snob phase, so she expected me to get mad or something when Kazumi Evans launched into Art of the Dress. I had to break it to her that I just can't get mad with stakes this low. She's just teaching kids how to sew shit. I didn't realize just how fierce the competition for best song in the series was until I was setting this list in stone and I found myself desperately looking for excuses to keep Art of the Dress inside the top 40. It was an absolute knockout in early series MLP, especially for a song with a roll call of sewing terminology. It's also a really elegant satire of the pains of dealing with clients in a creative role. I wish it didn't stick so closely to the song on which it was based, putting it together from Stephen Sondheim's 1984 musical Sunday in the Park with George, even though some staunch musical fans among you might insist that the songs deal with the same concerns of making art for an audience who doesn't appreciate the work behind the artistic artifice. It's an issue that's going to be addressed later, but the fact that there are so many that edge this one out really gets me scared about having to decide between the rest of these. I don't know when we crossed the threshold, but we're firmly in great song territory now. Say Goodbye to the Holidays is a mischievous wintry song brought to life 40% by Kelly Sheridan's wonderful return to her pre-transition evil starlight sultriness, and 60% by the absolutely bananas orchestration by our returning friend Caleb Chan.
Well, okay.
The entire song feels cold and sinister, while keeping that wintry feeling all the way through. If you can get over the unwieldy title chosen by Daniel Ingram's Facebook followers back in 2011, Becoming Popular is a super catchy song about playing the social game, sung with casual confidence by Kazumi Evans with vocals sweetened in some areas by Rebecca Lamb. The guitar line is positively sparkling, as is the piano accompaniment, and I really like the soft, brushy sounding claps and pads put underneath to further smooth out the entire experience.
Becoming as popular can be. Making my mark in high society.
The End of the Rainbow is sung beautifully by Ian Hanlon, which makes this the closest the series is ever going to get to a Sunburst musical number. And man, Shadow the Hedgehog's got some pipes. More than that, the register for his speaking role as Mayor Sunny Skies from the 2019 special Rainbow Road Trip lies comfortably in Ian's singing register, making this song a very easy listen. The music for this solo song is also among the most thoughtfully composed in the series. For the entire first verse, Ian sings with only an understated piano line, which attunes the listener for when the second verse slowly brings in the gradually building string section. As the music builds, there are a couple opportunities for Ian to flex with some vocal acrobatics, and the whole song comes down on a really disarming recontextualization on the song's title. An admission that this town is not where the rainbow settled down, but where it used to exist. It's disarmingly powerful, which makes this one of my favorites.
Our little pony town, that's how our town saw the end of the rainbow.
I'm a massive fan of At the Gala, but the more I pick at it, the more decisions I find that leave me really deflated. At the front of my brain, I'm consistently let down by Rainbow Dash's segment of all things. It's very energetic, introduces some hard backing vocals, and her last line resolves upward, launching full speed into the choral refrain, but the big problem with this direction is that it occurs 40% into the song, leaving a comparatively tired little trough for Pinky and Twilight to discuss their agenda. It's a giant step forward that gets immediately backpedaled on, killing a lot of the momentum. We also have to talk about the inspiration for this one. I've intentionally avoided making it a focus of this video, but as an adult team creating music for a kids show, people like Daniel Ingram probably have their own favorites when it comes to the music they grew up on and are absolutely allowed to pay homage to it in their work. They've done it earlier in this video, with songs that call back to Dr. Dolittle and Sunday in the Park with George, the keyword there being homage. At the Gala is extremely similar to Ever After, the song that closes Act 1 of the Stephen Sondheim musical Into the Woods. And bless my untrained musical ears, the first three verses of At the Gala appear to be lifted nearly wholesale from Into the Woods.
Journey over, all is mended, and it's not just for today, but tomorrow, and extended ever after. Ever after!
I try to focus on what a song is instead of where it came from, but this inspiration is so blatant it's off-putting. I gave a pass to Art of the Dress, borrowing heavily from Putting It Together because those match thematically. This lift makes me almost feel a little bad for liking this one so much in the first place, and I'm not sure that blast beats over fireworks can completely mask that. In 2018, Friendship is Magic released the Season 8 episode Road to Friendship, about two familiar friends who travel to a far-off place, encountering their fair share of hardships and shenanigans. The song they sing, We're Friendship Bound, is a clear homage to Road to Morocco from the Bing Crosby and Bob Hope film of the same name. That's just one of a handful of films that the two starred in about two buddies traveling to a far-off place. In that respect, Friendship Bound is a pitch-perfect homage to those kinds of songs, even if modern audiences are more familiar with Seth MacFarlane's various send-ups of the idea on Family Guy back in the 2000s. I love the hidden double meaning in the title, but I'm still docking points for lampshading its own existence in the beginning.
Thank goodness we're not like Twilight or the others. They'd probably sing a song about it.
34, The Place Where We Belong. Do yourself a favor and go listen to this one again. It's a really genuine, earnest song sung in voice by the Student Six about building and preserving something important to them. The biggest accomplishment here is fitting characters like Gallus, Yona, and Smolder, who have voices not necessarily attuned to singing, into a song in such a way that they complement its progression instead of derailing it like Granny Smith and the Flim Flam Brothers or the upcoming Apples to the Core. This is one of those songs, like the also upcoming Out on My Own, that smacked me in the face because I wasn't playing it in my normal rotation. I'm also a sucker for smooth backing vocals, melodies that resolve surprisingly up instead of down, and this one passage that does both of those at once.
Its roots have grown deep in our hearts. Deep in our hearts.
33, Pinky's Present. The live big band track perfectly accompanies Shannon Chan Kent's effortlessly squeaky vocals here. It's super cozy, immediately transporting me back to Christmas with my family while maintaining that vintage holiday touch. It's also got an iron grip on its pacing, and not even a 10-second tap dance solo to break things up in the middle derails that amazing sense of momentum. Even Twilight's a fan. 32, You're in My Head Like a Catchy Song. I don't know what you want me to say about these anymore. Every song left on this list is fantastic. Even though I had no idea who Felicia Day was before this, and apparently I should have, her tender performance here pairs phenomenally with Daniel Ingram's music, this time restricted to a single acoustic guitar set to standard E tuning. Felicia's singing and Daniel's music work in equal portions here, but it's the sign of a great chef when he can make magic with only two ingredients. The guitar line does this apprehensive walk up and back down when it mimics pear butter coming to terms with her feelings, and I'll just say it, this song has the most satisfying title drop in the entire franchise, landing right at the end of the verse, as well as the most earned complete stop as she finally decides that she's in love with the man from the other side of the fence.
And you should not blame me too if I can't help falling in love with you.
I'm not crying, you're crying. Let's knock out a few more real quick. Call it a filler song if you want, but Best Friends Until the End of Time is the kind of song that should have closed out seasons 4 and 5. The string section is nice and simple, and even though it's a generic song about friendship, it has a much more well-defined sense of identity than either of those two finale songs that I had to Google to write about. I'm the Friend You Need just oozes adventure. Broadway veteran Taye Diggs brings a wonderful velvety performance to a shifty street cat, propped up perfectly by a fantastic string section that absolutely nails the foreign bizarre setting. Apples to the Core gets knocked points for giving Granny Smith a verse and for a couple shifty rhymes, but earns them all back with fantastic performances by Michelle Kreber and our old reliable Shannon Chan Kent. Also big points for incorporating that apple popping sound into the mix, an effect that is unfortunately absent in its appearance on the soundtrack Songs of Ponyville. It's in a dead heat with Raise This Barn, the down-home country song that Applejack had been begging for 3 seasons. It's got all the makings of a good old-fashioned no-frills line dance, diving headfirst into the old reliable 4/4 time signature like the square dances it happily borrows from. Even though we still have to talk about This Day aria in a little bit, Open Up Your Eyes is easily the best villain song in Friendship is Magic. Maybe not all of Gen 4, there's a couple songs in there that easily give this one a run for its money, but this is absolutely the peak villain song in the series, no question. The orchestration is some of Daniel's best, and Emily Blunt's amazing range cements the already very popular opinion that Tempest was the real villain of that movie. The music is lush, and the instruments complement each other perfectly. I personally am a huge fan of using military drums as a shorthand for power. If I have one nitpick, the instrumental segment deflated its own energy a little more than it probably had to, but if that's the only criticism I have, I'm in a lot of trouble for the rest of this video. The vote is a small-scale battle of good versus evil, as the kids on the playground call for a student election for the good of the people. On the good side, all 3 Crusaders, Kreber, Corlett, and Peters, join together in really emotionally satisfying harmony given the context of this episode. The drumline from the last entry returns, this time recontextualized as a force for good, and the chorus jumps up and down the scale, making this triumphant song also really catchy.
'Cause when we vote together, there's nothing that we can't achieve.
This case for good is intercut fantastically with Diamond Tiara's rebuttal, a barely concealed disdain for her classmates in a 3/4 waltz time, accompanied by an absolutely shredding harpsichord, the go-to instrument backing for rich people who don't have time for your poor person problems.
'Cause I'll make things happen that none of you here can afford to do, like ever.
The whole song pings effortlessly against itself in a way that shouldn't be possible, but somehow is. Friends Are Always There For You escapes the fate of season wrap-up songs like Let the Rainbow Remind You because it's a song about something. In this case, welcoming Starlight Glimmer into the fold and atoning for past mistakes. This song opens on the returning Caleb Chan performing the old standby, the mandolin. And after a quick verse from Kelly Sheridan, the song opens up beautifully to the rest of the instruments, giving the whole song a wonderful blossoming effect. There are whole segments where the vocals drop down in the mix a little to let the song breathe. First in the march where she acclimates herself to friendship, and then in another really emotional section where she reconciles with her village.
Everywhere you go, friendship there will grow. When you find it, it's the key. Friends can change the world, you see.
That is how you do a finale. 24, Winter Wrap-Up. Look, I wasn't here when this episode dropped on Christmas Eve 14 years ago. I can't imagine what a landmark moment it was for the series. It's only their 6th song if you don't count the theme song, and the oldest song left on this list by a wide margin. I also like to think it was the first real sign to anybody bewildered by this sudden exploding community that actual earnest high-quality effort went into producing this show, and that the entire fandom wasn't just a long-form inside joke everyone was in on. The song has been endlessly covered and remixed. Heck, its page on the fan wiki is almost completely devoted to all the places it appeared since. Even I got in on that Yuletide pie back in March.
How can I watch the 49ers game? What does every other day mean?
It's also just really good. The team didn't have to add this dramatic spotlight preamble, and Rebecca Choikette's crescendo at the end is really impressive. The whole song is also very, very catchy, but not quite the catchiest song in the series. Scientists have been trying for a while now to empirically pin down what makes a song catchy. We're not there yet in terms of verifiable data, but we're onto a few key factors. Repetition, alliteration,
She went from babs, yeah, to a bully and a beast.
a strong rhythm line,
Hiding from a bully, we know it isn't right. But the cutie mark crusaders, we are looking for a fight.
and a chorus with pitches that are all over the place.
Fantasy, what we gonna do? Got a bully on our tail, gotta hide, we gotta fail.
It's a song so catchy that most people didn't even realize that Michelle Kreber had to double as Claire Corlette's singing voice while her prepubescent voice settled. It's a song so catchy that it was the 5th most popular song when I asked 500 fans to tell me about their favorites, and that's saying a lot. Christmas songs are harder to write than I think a lot of people realize. In an increasingly commercialized world, it's understandable to be a little cynical about what the holidays has become, but it can be done well. Case in point,
One more day before the cheers. Shop, tape, box, rap, boom, repeat.
2 years off from the season 6 parody of A Christmas Carol, One More Day paints a picture of a panicked Ponyville preparing presents for the upcoming holiday. The verses are nice and bouncy, several characters get nice extended notes in their solos, a choir of male voices adds some much needed variety, and the musical motif that name drops the song is just amazing. For me though, its crowning jewel is its ability to accept that Christmas can be a really stressful time of year without becoming a deeply cynical song about consumerism. You'd think that wouldn't be an issue, but several modern Christmas classics fell right in that hole, so I'm very impressed that late series Friendship is Magic managed to toe the line better than the Christmas pop charts. A Kirin Tale is funny and bouncy and oozes show choir vibes, but it originally wasn't a song with this much character. The song was rewritten by Jim Miller to be funnier after production signed Rachel Bloom as the voice of Autumn Blaze. And she's definitely got comedy chops to sell the various rambling passages of a Kirin who's been talking to herself for years. But I wonder if that's automatically a good thing. I'm generally very suspicious of projects that change tone partway through production, even if it's to suit a mandate like a casting choice or focus group results. Rachel Bloom brings the same energy she brought to her pet project, 2015's Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, but how much of this song do you think was changed to fit her wheelhouse? I mean, try to imagine Super Duper Party Pony if it wasn't written to be a polka because they had locked in Weird Al as VA. You almost can't. There are sections of A Kirin Tale, specifically the chorus, that feel separated from the rest of the song. My headcanon is that the chorus was left over from the first draft of that song, which is why I tend to lose interest as it starts to wind down. Still really good though. 20 will make our mark. The song that opens and closes Crusaders of the Lost Mark is a fine one that fulfills its purpose of having a song of some sort play such a momentous occasion into the credits, and besides a very bombastic verse over top of a demo reel of their greatest hits, does its job in a satisfactory way. The song earns massive tearjerker points for the 2 lines of acknowledgement from older sisters Rainbow Dash and Rarity, but I also want to give a shout out to the guitar line running underneath both this scene and the review you're listening to right now. It's a really bare tune that acts as a bed underneath all this catharsis and knows exactly how to stay in the corner of the mix out of the way. The Ballad of the Crystal Empire is a folk song that sits comfortably in the series' wheelhouse, proudly touting the show's old standby, the mandolin. It's also a song steeped heavily in the show's world building, as the song plays us through the research and preparation of a group of people trying to revive a long-dormant culture. Only one of the lines flopped for me, the one about the Crystal Kingdom anthem, but the rest of the song is really charmingly written. The vocals and the mandolin do this cool call and response thing every time they list something the Crystal Ponies were into. They'll mention jousting, and the strings will play a tasty little lick. It happens over and over again, and it's infectious.
It says that they like jousting. They flew a flag of many hues.
I also had a whole section of this entry prepped where I broke down why the hook in this song makes my brain so happy, but with my lack of musical education, I had to scrap it.
Oh, we have to get this right. Yes, we have to make them see. We can save the crystal ponies with their history.
I'm sure it has something to do with the circle of fifths or harmonies or chord progressions or something, but my brain knows what I like, and I like it a lot. Let's talk about fan favorites. Before I made this list, I asked 500 fans to tell me what their favorite Friendship is Magic song is. The coolest thing I found is that 2/3 of all songs in the catalog are represented as somebody's favorite, and that makes me really happy. As for the most popular fan songs, there were 5 songs in particular that were leagues above the others in terms of popularity, and I'll bet if you pause this video, you could come up with most of them pretty quick. Nearly 40% of survey takers chose one of these 5 songs as their favorite. In 5th place is Babseed, the monstrous earworm we discussed earlier. Going up the ranks, we have You'll Play Your Part from Season 4, Smile from Season 2, and Flawless from Season 7, each of which I'm going to talk about here pretty soon. But the song here at number 18 is the most popular song in the fandom by a pretty wide margin. I joined the fandom after the series had wrapped, but I like to think that the Season 2 finale was the height of Gen 4 hype. A finale to a full season promising new characters, epic confrontations, and some bomb-ass music. Now listen, this song and the Chrysalis Reprise, which I've grouped together here, is very, very good, and even though it's not my favorite, landing in the top 20 is nothing to sneeze at. I could ramble on about how epic the instrumentation is, or remind you for the umpteenth time that Britt McKillop has a phenomenal singing voice, but instead I want to point out a couple of moments in this song that really feel like Daniel Ingram was sneaking in dorky little musical references only he would get. And I want to be clear, that is the highest of compliments. Like how this song is billed as an aria. An aria is an extended song consisting of only one singer and her accompaniment. Now yes, this song is technically a duet between 2 characters, but through the magic of Changeling warfare, both parts of this song end up being sung by Cadence's VA Britt McKillop, which technically means that the aria label still fits. I know that was a really long walk for a really small drink of water, but it just highlights how musicians are all just wizards to me. This entire video, I've been repeatedly throwing up my hands in amazement at all the tiny details hidden in these songs, and it's completely on brand that Daniel would hide one of his deepest cuts in his most popular song. Make This Castle a Home has a very touching reprise that reinforces what makes a house a home, and it's as triumphant as the rest of the song. I love songs where the whole cast sings, and the entire song leans hard on this triumphant refrain pattern that doesn't ever get old and continually reinflates the track with 3 simple notes.
And we'll make, 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 how we made, 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 how we made this castle.
I'll also quickly shout out Balloons and Confetti, the awesome song by Jackie Lombardi that samples one of Pinkie Pie's lines here while she's busy crapping up Twilight's castle in the main portion of the song. Speaking of which, that well-intentioned messiness is a big part of why this song feels so natural. There's definite humor in juxtaposing the epic emotional score of the scene against the fact that the main five have absolutely no idea how to interior decorate. But what makes this delivery super smooth is that the song doesn't at any point stop to excessively illustrate that throwing random crap in your living room is not how you make someone feel at home. You can enjoy this song without visuals, without having to pause to refer to something on screen. Meanwhile, anyone watching the clip this episode comes from can enjoy that juxtaposition without feeling like they're being spoon-fed. Over an hour ago, I said that I wanted to judge each song based on its own merit, and that I'd try my hardest not to judge it within the context of the episode. That's of a massive benefit to Flawless from Season 7, because if I have to take away points for context, the second most popular song in the series drops halfway down the list, and I mean that quite genuinely. This entire episode, and a couple others, are the subject of a video I want to do soon about ponies and cynicism, but thankfully I don't have to do that here. Flawless is far and away the best part of the episode in which it appears. Instantly memorable, with a message I think more people need to hear, even though it has very little to do thematically with the episode. Lots of bold choices here. 6-pony harmony,
We're not flawless. We're a work in progress. We got dance and we got quirks.
and a really nice vocal line running underneath some of the most emotionally sensitive lyrics in the franchise.
Ponies think I'm all bubbles and laughter, that I don't seem sincere. I might joke around a little too much, but I'm just so happy you're here.
15. Your Heart is in Two Places. I adore the duets in this series, or more generally, songs that have a back and forth nature between two characters. Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo try to sell Terramar on the pros of his two split homes, the breathtaking majesty of Harmonizing Heights, scored by a sparkling string section, and the bombastic orchestra section of Sequestria, which ticks all the orchestral boxes associated with that underwater feeling. The two of them blend together effortlessly with a really pretty piano wind-up, which keeps this from feeling like two unrelated songs stitched together.
The eagles are regal, but the skulls are cooler. Their claws are so awesome with their sweet maneuvers.
There's also a ton of assonance, or repetition of vowel sounds, and I adore songs with a focus on rhyme schemes. The queen of these undoubtedly goes to Sweetie Belle's 9-tuple A airdrop at the end of her first verse.
Coulter mare, or you wear feathers, fins, or hair. This is where you belong.
Out on My Own is why I recommend everyone do an annual rewatch of the series. It's one of those songs that smacks you right in the chops because it doesn't fit that fun danciness of other songs in your personal playlist. This one's an emotional wrecking ball piloted solely on the singing prowess of the now adult Michelle Crever in her crowning performance. There's nothing else to say here. Go listen to it if you feel like crying. Awesome is a surprisingly difficult word to rhyme naturally, but lyricist Daniel Ingram and Michael Vogel made it work with a surprisingly natural sounding mosaic rhyme, where they used two words
So take the Storm King's orders and toss 'em.
to rhyme a single longer word.
Hey, scallywags, it's time to be awesome.
This whole thing is awesome, from the chanting to that second verse that introduces all the Celtic sounding instrumentation. And even though the audio only version doesn't come with the unfurling of the ship's feathered sails, the orchestration is more than enough to sell the effect to the listener. It's also got that perfect sense of motion that one more song on this list also nails, but we'll get to that in a bit. Number 12, Pinky's Lament. Sad Pinky is not a register we normally hear her in, but Shannon Chan Kent delivers beautifully in a story beat that at one point was my favorite song in the franchise. There's a lilting, arresting sadness to some of these lyrics, especially as they pertain to putting away her party tools.
I put away my party cannon. I deflated all my balloons.
The lyrics devolve into these despondent observations of picture frames on her stairwell, but very, very importantly, the instrumentation does not stop while she does this. Instead, a singular woodwind, identified as an oboe in some online scores, follows her up the stairs as she gathers herself to retackle her life's purpose. It all leads to that big crescendo we know and love, and I'm sorry, but I'm gonna make the same joke I made 3 years ago.
Show them a time of their life like they've never known. Like they've never known.
The song does race to the finish using the same melody as Pinky the Party Planner, but I gave this song its own entry for that walk-up alone. A true friend struck me at a very tender time in my life. I was working at a job that caused me constant anxiety, a job that I left every day feeling frustrated and useless. I wouldn't quit that job for a couple more years, but one of the repeated lyrics in this song hit me like a freight train.
Rarity needs your help. She's trying hard, doing what she can.
That sort of friendship in the face of a miserable, impossible situation is as close to the thesis of G4 as the show ever got, and the song exemplifying it is equally well organized, backed glowingly by members of the choir from the University of British Columbia. It's repetitive, save for banjo and operatic flourishes in turn, but in a way that builds upon itself, adding voices and instruments to each verse, like a community reinforcing itself. It's one of the most genuine songs in the series, and one that absolutely nailed the assignment. I've thought long and hard about this next one, and I think I've come to a realization.
My name is Pinkie Pie. Hello. And I am here to say, how you doing?
I'm now 100% confident that Smile is the best character introduction song I have ever heard. Let alone that it occurred in Season 2, for my money no single song better exemplifies what a character is about while staying memorable and interesting throughout. There's nothing I could say about this that hasn't been said before. The entire thing is brilliantly paced, beautifully scored with plucky palm-muted acoustic guitar, and completely overflowing with optimism. I was worried that the show's songwriting might have peaked too soon, but don't worry, I've still got some list left in me. The Magic of Friendship Grows is another one of those songs that at one point in time was my favorite in the series, and it's still in the top 10 for me. It's a wonderful epilogue reflection, thanks to a 6-part harmony, a very simple to follow melody, some shredding accents that don't pump Dash's verse above everyone else's, and 2 extremely purposeful callbacks to the start of the series. One, a recycling of an innocuous line from the opening theme song,
I used to wonder what friendship could be. Oh, and how I used to wonder what friendship could be.
and one more farewell sound-off of the series motif that became the franchise's calling card. I don't know what to say anymore, these are all incredible.
How the magic of friendship grows.
I'm sad now. Break out the mandolin. I don't have to tell you that Hearts as Strong as Horses slaps. I don't even have to say that about the refrain, a tender walk back up to full speed that recontextualizes earlier sections of the song. The whole thing is bread and butter songwriting, start to finish, down to the good old mandolin. So instead, I'm going to talk about the historical significance of this one. This is the first song in the catalog to feature the singing voices of all 3 Crusader voice actors, Michelle Kreber, Claire Corlett, and Madeline Peters. For previous Crusader songs, Kreber had to fill in for Claire Corlett as her prepubescent singing voice settled. Season 4 marks the first time they sing together as a group, and it couldn't be for a more thematically appropriate number. Number 7.
And I'll fly until the end of the sky. So I'll be the one who doesn't have to say goodbye.
I'll Fly is the closest the series ever got to a conventional rock song, due no doubt to VA Ashley Ball's training as the lead singer of her indie band Hey Ocean. The lyrics come out nice and crisp in her Rainbow Dash accent without any detriment to the melody, and damn, what a melody.
I know it's wrong, but what does it matter? 'Cause nothing's gonna stop me now. I'll change it all. It's only the weather, and no pony's gonna bring me down.
The highest praise I can give this one comes from an interaction I had while hiring musicians for my very first episode the day after Ponycast. The credits to that episode were scored by a cover of this song with vocals by Christina Rotundo, an extremely talented rock vocalist I met on Fiverr. The singer normally requests across the board that she go uncredited in all the projects she participates in, but shockingly gave me the go-ahead to name drop her on the project because, and I quote, "This is the kind of music I make anyway." If a horse song can elicit that kind of response from strangers on the internet, that's a sign you've got something really special. Number 6.
The rules of rarity, guaranteed quality, this I can assure.
The creative in me is already going to be intensely biased towards songs about the concessions creatives make while fighting for air in a capitalist society. But this song does not need my defense. Lyrically, this is the tightest song in the franchise, the Lose Yourself of Friendship is Magic. I'm not doing a bit here. Part of the reason Eminem's Lose Yourself was the first hip-hop song to win the Academy Award for Best Original Song is just how well composed that first verse is. 40 consecutive seconds where almost every word rhymes with another word in the verse. There's a similar finely pruned rhyme structure to this entire song, starting with an opening line that rhymes her name 3 times in a row.
The rules of rarity.
guaranteed quality, this I can assure.
This ABCCB rhyme scheme occurs in almost every single stanza of this song, giving it a similar structure to a limerick where lines 2 and 5 rhyme to nicely wrap up every stanza. Even the ones that don't exactly follow that structure to a T keep the rhyming pairs close together to keep cohesion. I love refrains that change the feel of the song. This moment of hopelessness in her sewing room is painfully real to me. I want to make new things. I don't want to follow a template when I'm making something for other people. And that's not even the best line in the song.
My favorite moment's when the pony sees it, that special gown that she just adores.
I could write a whole thesis about Rarity and how she allows girls to be comfortable indulging in pursuits that would otherwise seem really shallow, and it's a line that has only grown on me over time. Comments like these are easily my favorite kind of comments to receive. It's so affirming that I helped people remember that their interests aren't dumb or girly or better left in the 2010s. I legitimately want to make stuff like this for people, and knowing that some people feel better that their fandom is alive and well is all the motivation in the world I need to keep doing this. For a very long time, the song in the number 5 slot just didn't click for me. I honestly found it really boring. Then I listened to Through the Ages, a 2022 acoustic mashup of songs to celebrate Friendship is Magic's 12th anniversary.
Something shows if you could see that I turn back, eventually we could just pretend this is something that can never end.
I was blown away to find out 2 years later that that mix was performed by none other than Kanto Acrylic, a talented pony musician who I first saw at Whinny City 2024. This is a guy who joined the fandom after I did, and he's already changing my worldview on what the fandom has to offer. I've left a link to the mashup in the description, but I want to play you the part that's actually relevant to this conversation.
Know that your time is coming soon, as the sun rises on the moon, as the finds a place in every heart. You are a princess, you play your part.
What the heck is that hook, and why is it so good? I asked myself, desperately Googling the lyrics to get my life in order, when suddenly everything clicked.
Your destiny's uncertain, and that's sometimes hard to take, but it will become much clearer with every new choice you make.
You'll Play Your Part has an absolutely perfect trajectory. It starts off nice and slow, and even though it takes a while to get going, there's not a single moment in this one where the energy backtracks on itself, thanks to another amazing orchestration by our friend Stefan Anderson. It opens with 2 trepidatious Twilight verses, questioning wistfully over a quiet string section about her place in the universe. Each of her 3 Alicorn mentors has their own stanza, reassuring her of her own importance to the coming piece of Equestria, with amazing sections by Nicole Oliver, Kazumi Evans, and Britt McKillop. Oh my god, Britt McKillop.
Soon will come the day it turns around.
The whole thing is fantastic, easily the best song from the best season. It's late, I don't have to tell you how emotionally resonant this song is. The diamond metaphor is a little simple for my taste, but the sparkling refrain is amazing in between really sad, lethargic lines about the reality of the situation at hand. I also like how a really smart melody reinforces this morose feeling. Listen to this section, it sounds like a big sad sigh.
Would you believe that I've always wished I could be some pony else?
It's sufficiently devastating and really helps sell the distress of a character that might be hard to root for on face value.
I know you were worried for a second there, weren't you? Ha! Well, I think it's all gonna work out just fine, Mr. President.
But that's only half of why I put this one in the number 4 slot. You might think this counts as cheating, and the Wikipedia article agrees, but these have the same melody sung by the same character, so I'm grouping them together at number 4. I've said it half a dozen times already, but I absolutely adore a song getting recontextualized, and this reprise is a night and day difference. The chimes are redecorated and accompanied by that great string section, and it's so nice to hear someone lift all that weight off their shoulders that we put onto them in the first act. It's clean and triumphant, and honestly, I'm trying not to cry right now.
And be the pony I wanna be. And be the pony I wanna be.
Would you believe that we're still not done with Crusaders of the Lost Mark?
Where is she going? Where do you think? Come on, after her! Wait, I'm coming too!
Light of Your Cutie Mark is a musical sparring match on par with any high-octane chase sequence you've ever seen, and the song is doing most of that heavy lifting. It's also got that affect again, where a character will deliver their line, followed by a couple bars of the orchestra throwing punches of its own.
Those ponies need to know the truth, and they'll hear it from me.
Diamond and the Crusaders throw really serious retorts around, which were already chiseled down from some even darker places. Have you heard some of the lyrics from the demo of this song? Look for one important word change that carries some extra heavy implications. This is the songwriting team firing on all cylinders, and the amazing harmonies by Kreber, Corlett, and Peters are arranged beautifully by Trevor Hoffman, who handled vocal arrangement on the 2017 movie as well as all 4 of the Equestria Girls films. He, Daniel Ingram, and Caleb Chan on orchestration keep the downtown melody unpredictable, even when you're already trying to keep up. I've always loved the extremely conscious choice in this section to resolve the notes on better way up instead of down to infuse the song with additional optimistic energy late in the track.
But there's a better way.
Only to come crashing down at the end when she splits off to tell on them anyway. It's the only moment in the series to make me audibly gasp the first time I watched it, and this musical masterclass is a big part of that. I would consider the 2017 movie one of my comfort films, up there with Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, and Saw 2. It's fun, it's immaculately polished, and in case you haven't been listening for the last 80 minutes, the music in that movie is really, really, really good. Yeah, I have to wade through a hoofed up We Got the Beat, and sometimes I wonder why I turned it on in the first place.
But you have us, so stop worrying.
We Got This Together is straight and to the point, no filler, all killer. It's the festival of friendship, and dang it, Daniel Ingram did it again. This is the best full cast song in the series. Twilight, Dash, AJ, Rarity, Pinky, and Cheer Squad Fluttershy all get time to shine with the help of the Phoenix Chamber Choir for a song that effortlessly sets the plot, the tone, and the emotional stakes of our main heroine. The song is a Where's Waldo explosion of your favorite characters, but even without the visuals, there's so much musical flourish. Like the deep brass on Dash's Flyover, the violin part for AJ's Banquet, the softness of Rarity's Discerning Eye, and Pinky's off-kilter sax backup. Speaking of which, I love me some alliteration sounds, and Pinky keeps the party going with a sibilant storm of several S sounds while setting up sweets on the mixing cycle.
She'll be so shocked, she's sure to love it too.
The whole thing is no frills and gets me excited for the rest of this adventure. And while it might be unintentional, I haven't heard anyone mention a serendipitous callback in this song to the very first episode of the show. Whip out the roll call.
The weather, the banquet, the style, the music.
Everything comes full circle and feels both fresh and familiar, and that's something that's supremely difficult to nail unless you're the man who has quickly become one of my favorite composers of all time. If you're still here, thanks so much for watching. It really means a lot to me that people want to watch a feature-length video about horse music. The number 1 slot is coming up in about 10 seconds, but if you like this, consider sharing it with someone you think might enjoy it. I've got some bigger projects like MLP Reanimated in the works, but until then, I'm some horse on the internet. Let me show you my favorite song. When I started writing this episode, I don't think there were ever any real challengers to the number 1 spot. Lena Hall was the perfect candidate from the start, a fact that was teased at the 2014 Tony Awards when she name-dropped the show during her acceptance speech.
And thank you so much. Friendship is magic. Thank you!
But beyond all the behind-the-scenes info, I have an extremely vivid memory of me in 2020, a year before I stopped drinking and 4 months before I joined the fandom, watching my wife watch the main attraction. I had no idea who Countess Coloratura was, but this song touched me so deeply that I still spent the entire night in a drunken, snotty mess, crying as I listened to this song on repeat. It's an embarrassing memory, but it's mine. And to this day, it's the song that I show people, my roommate included, who aren't even into the franchise, that gets them to go, okay, wow. This music is incredible.